shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Stop global warming. Stop global warming. We're gonna let it shine. Stop global warming. We're gonna let it shine. Stop global warming. We're gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. In Copenhagen. In Copenhagen. We're gonna let it shine. In Copenhagen. We're gonna let it shine. In Copenhagen. We're gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. All across the world. All across the world. We're gonna let it shine. All across the world. We're gonna let it shine. All across the world. We're gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. This little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine. 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 Let it
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. It's important for us to be sending a message to the negotiators in Copenhagen. I got an email today from Bill McKibben, who is the primary organizer around the world of 350.org, who said that the island nations from around the world are taking a very radical stance in Copenhagen and pushing the rest of the world to make the most important changes that can possibly be made in our time. And they were feeling a little discouraged. And Bill McKibben said to the president of the Maldives that the army he has behind him is the army of the people around the world. On October 24th, there were nearly 2,000 demonstrations around the world in support of the idea that we can only have 350 parts per million of carbon in the atmosphere in order to maintain a livable climate. And that's exactly what the island nations in the world need to survive. So we are the army that is behind the nations of the world who are at great risk if there is not an agreement on limiting carbon in the atmosphere. I want to read you just a few words from President Nasheed's speech, who is the president of the Maldives. We are vulnerable because climate change threatens to hit us first and hit us hardest. And we are vulnerable because we have modest means with which to protect ourselves from the coming disaster. We are a diverse group of countries, but we share one common enemy. For us, climate change is no distant or abstract threat, but a clear and present danger to our survival. Climate change is melting the glaciers in Nepal, causing floods in Bangladesh. It threatens to submerge the Maldives and the Kiribati, and in recent weeks has further drought in Tanzania and typhoons in the Philippines. Carbon knows no boundaries. Whether we like it or not, we are all in this fight together. For all of us gathered here today, inaction is not an option. So what can we do about it? As Copenhagen comes, the negotiators are searching for a solution. It is easy to think that climate change is like any other crisis, but it is not. The fact of the matter is we cannot negotiate with Mother Nature. We must learn to live within the fixed planetary boundaries. Members of the G8 countries have pledged to halt temperature rise to 2 degrees Celsius, but they have refused to commit to carbon targets which would deliver even this modest goal. And even with 2 degrees Celsius temperature rise, we would lose the coral reefs. At 2 degrees, we would melt Greenland. At 2 degrees, my country would not survive. And as a president, I cannot accept this. As a person, I cannot accept this. I refuse to believe that it is too late and that we cannot do anything about it. Copenhagen is our date with destiny. Some might prefer us to suffer in silence, but today we have decided to speak, and I make this pledge that we will not die quietly. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe in humanity. I believe in human ingenuity. It's amazing when your fingers are cold how they don't function well. Okay. I believe that with the right frame of mind, we can solve this crisis. We don't want a global suicide pact. We are all this as one. We stand or fall together. I hope you will join me in this stand. And us being here tonight is joining him in that stand. We are his army, a group of people who will be disciplined in working for protecting our lives, protecting the lives of others, protecting the lives of the next generation, and protecting the earth from destruction caused by climate destabilization. We are an army motivated and fueled by love. Love for all the life forms on our beloved earth, and love for the children who come after us. It is out of our love for this planet and others that we must act now and send this message. And our first person speaking this evening will be of that next generation, Dan Jones from the Philadelphia Student Union.
Oh man, okay. Need some sort of thing here. 1 second. Dan Jones. I've been an organizer with the Philadelphia Student Union since my freshman year. I'm a senior now. And we're a group of Philadelphia public high school students that are organizing to build youth empowerment in our public schools. So as a young person, right, and as an activist, I've been thinking a lot about the legacy that's being forged in Copenhagen right now, right? Because that is what's happening. When all of the statesmen and the business leaders and the experts and the Nobel laureates go home, what we will be left with is a legacy. And I'm deeply troubled. I'm scared, really, by what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing. I'm scared that this legacy will mean a world beyond the tipping point, too far down the road to disaster to turn back. I'm scared that this legacy will mean a global socioeconomic and political structure that marginalizes those most deeply affected by problems, even in the search for solutions to those very same challenges. I'm scared that this legacy will mean a world where crises of life and death are left unresolved because of an unwillingness of established power to pursue justice. It cannot be overstated how critical of a point we have reached. We have seen the beginning of what happens to human beings on the front lines of environmental catastrophe. Desertification in sub-Saharan Africa, monsoons in the Philippines and Myanmar, and Hurricane Katrina here in the United States have shocked us and made clear to us the extreme gravity of our current situation and of its continuing development. Island nations like Kavula, the Maldives, and Cape Verde, all over the planet, are facing total destruction due to rising sea levels and storms of increasing intensity. These groups and others may be the first to experience the devastating and concrete impacts of climate change, but if left unchecked, much more of the world will be facing similar situations within my lifetime. Whoops. If those who I mentioned before are on the front lines, each and every young person on this planet is not far behind. We will be dealing with the effects of what comes out of Copenhagen for the rest of our lives, and we refuse to be set up for failure. There's another piece of the legacy of Copenhagen, though, one whose implications are just as troubling as climate catastrophe. This legacy is about how we as a global community address the most serious and threatening issues we are presented with. In Copenhagen, we are seeing one framework for problem solving. The defining feature of this framework is the systematic marginalization of those directly affected by a problem in addressing that problem. Poor people, those who cannot afford to adapt to the changing climate conditions and who live on the front lines of environmental disaster, are not at the table in Copenhagen. Young people, who will all be dealing with this problem, are not at the table in Copenhagen. The people of the nations that are dealing with the impacts of climate change on a real and devastatingly tangible level, nations like Kavula and the Maldives, are being effectively isolated by the rich and powerful states of the convening. They are trying to remove them from the table. There's something wrong here. Something at the root of the lack of progress on climate change policy, and something that we cannot ignore. Just as the victims of an oppressive system of education must be the leading force in transforming that system, the victims of environmental injustice must be the leading force in seeking a sustainable future. As long as that is not the case, a genuine solution will remain out of reach. That's right? Yeah, clap until I get to the next page. And there is still more to this legacy. Climate change, like so many other challenges, has been precipitated by and continues to be fed by a global framework built on competition and self-interest. This system thrives off of the poverty and disenfranchisement and suffering of billions of human beings. At Copenhagen, we are seeing the beneficiaries of this system protect their own positions. They are seeking to maintain their dominance at the expense of all else, at the expense of me and every other young person on this planet. We cannot solve a problem created by a global economic structure within that same structure. And yet this is what is being offered to me from this conference. The idea that we need not seek fundamental solutions and changes, even to a fundamental problem. See, part of why climate change is such a paralyzing challenge is that there's no room left to be reactionary. This position, despite all of its political security, only ensures our destruction. And aggressivism, the position most often stigmatized, is our only answer and our only hope for survival. Clap again. As a young person, I recognize this, and so I'm profoundly discouraged and disheartened by what is happening right now. And so this is what I fear: a world moving towards inhabitability and a global economic system incapable of addressing global issues of the utmost importance, due to the removal of those most affected from the conversation and a complete devotion to self-interest and reactionism. But Martin Luther King once said that power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice. And so we shall be. Just because they keep us from the table does not mean that we will starve and be silent. We reject their legacy and instead build our own. Where they resort to competition, we will build an international and inclusive movement. Where they follow political reactionism, we will lead with progressivism. Where they are motivated by self-interest, we will recognize the power of collective action motivated by love. Where they lack inspiration, we will need only to look at each other. Where they see only profit and loss, we will stand in awe of humanity. And where they lack vision, we will need only to close our eyes and see ourselves grown old, happy and healthy in a world governed by justice. Thank you.
I feel a lot safer knowing that he's taking over in this world from us. Yeah. Thank you. Andrew Levine from Philly350.org, who's going to be talking to us about 350 all around the world.
Good evening. Thank you, Mordecai. And more importantly, thank all of you for being here tonight. I'm thrilled to be here representing 350 Philly. And on behalf of our team, I would just like to thank you and the Shalom Center for coordinating tonight's event. Before I get started, was anybody here on October 24th?
Yeah.
Awesome. So we're here again. Just 7 weeks ago, on October 24th, 2009, we stood on this same plaza in pouring rain, feverishly checking people in for our event for the International Day of Climate Action. We gathered on the lawn in the shadow of Independence Hall, and we stood together with fellow citizens of our planet to send a powerful and united message to our leaders. The world needs the climate solutions that science and justice demand. And our message was heard loudly, and it was heard clearly. 5,200 events, 181 countries, and upwards of 1 million people. 22,000 photographs of joyous celebrations, rallies, and marches all over our planet. From Antarctica to Australia, New York to New Delhi, Philadelphia to the Philippines, even a transboundary event at the Dead Sea involving concerned citizens from Israel, Palestine, and Jordan. This one day of solidarity, of united global action, was characterized by CNN as the most widespread day, not just of environmental action, but of political action that the world has ever seen. And at one point on October 24th, according to Google, the International Day of Climate Action was the most searched news story on the internet. Just think of the scale of that. This day of events, this global unification marked a new era of activism. Here we were, all over the world, acting in unison, coordinated by the networking tools of the 21st century, built by small groups in the far-flung reaches of the globe, a massive movement led not by politicians, not by professional advocacy groups, and not by celebrity figures, quietly built momentum. And on October 24th, the results spoke for themselves. So what was all of this about and directed towards anyway? What was it that brought all of us together? What could possibly be so universal that despite our race, religion, political affiliation, economic class, age, or even the language that we speak, what is something so universal that we could all unite around? It's one number, which represents all of our common futures. 350. 350 parts per million. This is the level that many leading climate science experts and progressive national governments have determined to be the safe upper limit of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. In 2009, we're currently at 390 parts per million and rising. In order to make sure that this world, our planet Earth, remains a place where life as we know it can continue to thrive, we need to get back to 350, and we need to get back fast. We sent this message out from every corner of our planet on October 24th with a very clear target: the United Nations Climate Change Conference in Copenhagen. Today, December 12th, marks the halfway point of this 2-week-long conference. Leaders from 192 countries are gathering as we speak to determine the fate of our planet, to agree to an international climate treaty. Right now, the 350 target is in the negotiating text of the treaty, and this is thanks to the tireless spirit of concerned citizens and activists all over the planet. But getting 192 countries, both developing and developed, to agree to a common goal is a challenge beyond comprehension. Regardless of the outcome of the conference, what we are looking at now is a new beginning. A new conversation is happening in Copenhagen this week that is a reflection of the underlying 350 mission. This discussion is centered on the 3 underlying principles of sustainability: the environment, economics, and social equity. Sustainability, as defined by the UN way back in 1987, means meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. At the core of this new discussion in Copenhagen and the 350 mission is this central question: how do we make a mid-course correction? How can we ensure the safety and stability of the environment as we know it? How can we do so in a way which will lead to economic development and stability? And how can we do so in a way which respects our fellow citizens of a planet on which we all live and on which we all depend? This new integrated way of thinking, of facing challenges, is not an easy one. Accepting the unseen, unfelt, and unpaid consequences of our actions is a true change of course. And like turning around an ocean liner, it doesn't happen on a dime. To face this challenge, to make sure that the future generations are not unable to meet their needs. We need to move forward with patience, consideration, determination, and above all else, courage. Thank you.